One question says, as I drive by the current project site in downtown, I think to myself 10 years ago that African Americans had the highest per capita income in the city. Latinos have the highest population increase in the city. Yet, our educational system has the highest rate of graduation rates for African American and Latino students. What will you do to ensure that more African Americans and Latinos will be employed within the city and employed for the city?
I don't understand the question.
Lowest graduation. So I guess basically what you're saying, we have a city where we have some of the lowest graduation rates among African Americans and Latinos, and where African Americans have only 12% of the population, and let you have less African Americans employed and involved in city boards, commissions, and so forth. And so the question's combination of these: how are you going to ensure you get more African Americans and Latinos involved in city commissions and employed here in the city of Valentin? Yeah, city jobs.
One of the things that we've done, and I agree with the statistics that were said before. One of the things that we've done in City Council, I know Ocano, Mr. Donovan, and myself got involved in a committee with the city, with the school district, and many other people from outside the area. And this committee actually looked at those issues. We found out that there were people who were disrupting the schools and the classrooms, and we developed an alternative school. And those children are now going to the alternative school. In addition to that, we decided that we should identify the kids, and we offer that they get uniforms. That's going to happen, I think, next September. They're starting to do that, right? And you know, those are the type of things that we need to do, working together, the school and the city, to make sure that our children do better. Now, the other thing that we're doing in regards to employment is, as I said earlier, there will be over 3,000 jobs created in the city. And we want to make sure, you know, the CBA that people were talking about earlier, the community, community benefit agreement, we should implement that to make sure that minority also get some of those contracts, because they're out there, but we're not getting as many of them as minorities. And we want to make sure that we develop job training, just like the Sands Casino did with Northampton Community College. We can train people to do some of the thousands of jobs that are coming to the city. We can do it with LKC, Lehigh Carbon Community College, and we can do it with community organizations in the area, like the career links, etc. So those are the kind of things that we're going to continue to do to make sure. And if you look at the redevelopment in our city, 7th Street has been redeveloped, and there's a lot of diversity there, of all kinds. So we want to make sure that we get different people involved in the city, getting jobs, and making sure that they get the right education for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
With all due respect, sometimes people say, what are we going to do? Okay? What are you going to do? What are you going to do as a student? You've got to take responsibility for your education. Okay? Not going to be handed to you. What are you going to do as a parent? You're raising your children. Are you raising them with good values? Good morals? Respect? Teachers and administrators, they need to take responsibility. But with the responsibility comes accountability. I started in 1972 at Moser. I came from a little small town called Hockendacklo. I saw my first black person in 1972 at Moser. 1972, Moser. 5th grade teacher. I had 24 kids, 19 were African Americans. Okay? And then I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I would go back and forth, hockey, Moser, East Side. I loved it. I fell in love with those kids. I don't see, and I'm not playing to the audience, I don't see color. I see kids. I see potential. Okay? But it's not always, what are we going to do? I see Joanne Spencer back there. Worked with her when I was at Trexler Middle School as a principal. She was at Kutztown State University. It's not what we are going to do. What are you going to do? How are you going to raise your children to be responsible, to get a good education? What you put in, you get out. You don't read a book, you got no knowledge up here. Okay? You don't go to class, you got no knowledge up here. Not what we're going to do. We're going to help. We're going to facilitate. We're going to support. 30 seconds? 30 seconds. Hi Dave. What are you going to do to make this community better? To make the graduation rate at Allen and Deer is deplorable. It's deplorable. Okay? We can do it. Urban settings, they do it in Brooklyn. They do it in the Bronx. They do it in New York City. Urban renewal, urban revival. It's not only about buildings, it's about education. You don't educate your children. You don't educate your children. You can have the most beautiful arenas, the beautiful hotels. Educate your children.
Mr. Todd.
All right then. When I first moved here from Miami, Florida, there were two things that I had said to the mayor, and I think it got me in a little bit of trouble. Because one thing I noticed about the Lehigh Valley, and it seemed like this to me: Bethlehem was the good child, Allentown was the bad child, and Easton was kind of like the redheaded stepchild over there. I went and I told them that, you know what, Allentown doesn't have any great natural resources. We don't have any tourism, but we do have a prison right there in the middle of the city. I had an issue with that. You know what I'm saying? I see that they're saying that, I guess the answer is, let's take the kids away from the kids. Maybe if we throw these type of clothes on them, that'll solve the problem. And you and I know that there's a deeper issue than that. A lot of times, I'm not gonna lie, I get tired of people telling us what they think we need, and instead of just coming to us and asking us. And that's the bottom line. Just come and ask us. This is what we need, instead of just assuming this is what we need. I believe that what we need to do is that we need to instill pride and let people know that we need to be involved and not just be tolerated. Because that's the situation right now in Allentown. Everybody wants to talk about, hey, we can do this and we got the NIZ and everything. But the bottom line is that right now, people do not feel like they're involved in the process. And that's the real elephant in the room. That's the real elephant in the room. No matter how much they say, hey, Allentown is built on great diversity. And I get tired of hearing that, because to me that seems like more of a punchline than anything else. Because it's diverse as long as it's in a certain situation. But then after that, when it comes to being called to the table, I'm sorry, there's nothing there. Well, my thing is this. I believe that what we need to do is start instilling pride. And you know how we instill pride into people? We start actually communicating with them. It doesn't cost money to just reach out to the people and start saying, you know what, we feel like you need to be involved in this. And that's the problem. Again, the information is not being disseminated into the neighborhoods. There's no problem when the constable comes knocking on your door. They don't have any problem when it's time to vote and they come knocking at your door. But I don't see anybody coming when it's time on a regular day and say, hey, we have some different programs, we have some situations for you. Why don't you come through? That's what we need to do in order to make Allentown a better place. Thank you.
The question, as I understand it, has to do with education and jobs. Mr. O'Connell is right in that it takes a community. Kids need to come to school prepared to learn, and that's their parents' job. That being said, Allentown schools have been under pressure for a long, long time. We were an empowerment district in the year 2000. We're also one of the few districts to ever get out of empowerment. This district has improved significantly. It still has a long, long way to go. But we need community help. We need parents to get involved in their PTAs. You know what? There's schools in this town that don't have PTAs because the parents don't want to deal with it. They need to be there for their kids. That's one part of it. The second part of it is the state, for 16 of the last 20 years, has underfunded significantly the Allentown School District. Take a pick, between $500 and $700 million. That's not chicken feed. That's books that our children didn't have. That's resources they didn't have. That's too much that we paid in taxes. Money well spent matters. It can get you smaller class size. It can get you counseling, both mental health and career, to keep students who might want to drop out, to keep them in school. These are the kinds of things that a well-financed district can have. Unfortunately, we have to rely on the state because that's the way the system's set up, and they don't really seem to be that interested in a city like Allentown. The district uses its resources wisely. They've made improvements. They need to continue doing a better job so when our students come out of Allen and Deeroff, they're ready either to go into a career or go to college. And I say this as a father of 2 sons that have graduated from Allen and one that will, and I'm a graduate of Allen as well, so I'm certainly committed to our schools.
Thank you, sir.